Okay, good day, class. So, this is a recorded session in time for your first examination. So, if you have a ball pen and a piece of paper, you can take notes of the topics or the key terms that I will be discussing today. So, welcome to CRI 111, Introduction to Criminology. So, let's start off with defining what is criminology. So, criminology is derived from the Latin word crimen, which can be translated to offense or a violation of law. And the word logos, which again is a Latin word, which means a study or body of knowledge. So, ang first person na nagsabi or nag-coin sa word na criminology or as what is Latin translated, yung crimen at logos, was a man named Paul Popinard noong 1889. So he first coined that word, criminology. So criminology is a scientific study of criminals, criminal behavior, and its causes. So hindi lang yung mismong krimen ang pinag-aaralan namin, pinag-aaralan ninyo, but also yung mga nangyayari before the commission of a crime, before mangyari yung krimen, at pagkatapos yung mangyari yung isang krimen. At atin ring pinag-aaralan kung ano ang magiging epekto ng isang krimen, hindi lang para sa biktima, pati na rin sa mismong may sala or may gawa. Okay, so it is a whole faceted approach. It does not only affect the victims and the perpetrator, but it also studies on its effects to society and its effects not only to law enforcers but to the general public as well. Also, criminology is a body of knowledge regarding delinquency, specifically yung mga minors or yung kabataan, and that crime is a social phenomenon. Let me highlight this. Crime as a social phenomenon simply means na ang krimen nagsisimula or nangyayari dahil may mga tao sa isang lugar or sa isang society. So, paano ba natin mapupuksa ang krimen? Kung sinasabi natin na mawawala ang krimen, well, it is basically not attainable. Hindi po mawawala ang krimen ng 100%. Basically, crime is a social phenomenon because there are people involved. So kung gusto ninyo mawala ang krimen 100%, tanin nyo na lang lahat ng tao. So that is crime. Crime could not be stopped and only be contained. And those people who contain and fight crime are called law enforcers. Hindi lang mga pulis. Napakaraming mga agencies na pinumumunuan sa gobyerno, na rin mga organizations which help in the reduction of the occurrence of crimes. Also, criminology may also refer to the study of crimes and criminals and the attempt of analyzing scientifically their causes and control, and also yung treatment ng offenders or yung treatment ng criminals. Medyo kasi negative yung connotation pag sinasabi natin criminal agad. Again, meron tayong kasabihan sa batas that an individual is innocent until proven guilty. It's basically better if ma-avoid natin yung pagsasabi na isa siyang kriminal, but basically it's an offender. Offender, or pwede na rin yung common suspect. Criminology, pinag-aaralan dito, hindi lang yung mga taong involved, not just the victim and not just the criminals, but the crime itself. Ano ba yung krimen na tinuturing krimen? Why is it a violation of a law? And also, nag-aaralan din yung mga proseso sa pag-study sa krimen, studying criminals and their behavior, studying the processes in treating them or putting them into facilities, and also yung mga scientific process on how to control and apprehend law violators. So let's go to those key terms that you need to memorize. Yes, you need to memorize in order to know more about criminology. So, of course, let's start with crime. It's an act or omission in violation of public laws. So, it's not only done through on a certain thing, hindi lang yung physical na pagkilos, but also it is considered a crime if wala kang ginawa. For example, may nakita kang biktima ng isang, sabihin natin, accident, and you intentionally did not do anything. Sabi kung ikaw ay, or kung ikaw ay mismong pulis, sa mga tatod kung you are part of the government, empleyado ka sa gobyerno, official ka sa gobyerno. Doing nothing is also a violation, same as with doing something, which is a violation of law. Next, felony. So felony, these are acts or omissions which are violations of the law and is punishable by the Revised Penal Code or yung RPC. Ang RPC or ang Revised Penal Code, yan ay isang libro, isang code, yung kodigo penal na kung saan diyan nakasaad ng mga krimen, yung penalty, yung parusa na pinapato sa isang uri ng krimen. But what if there are crimes that are modern na hindi kasama sa original na Revised Penal Code? Kasi itong Revised Penal Code natin, nagsimula sa Kodigo Penal ng mga Espanyol nung panahon pa na sila yung namumuno sa Pilipinas. And that's why there are certain penalties or even yung scale ng penalties are in Spanish because it originated from Spanish penal law. Yan. And it was adapted sa Pilipinas by the time na mga Pilipino na ang namumuno dito sa atin. And that because our law or law itself is not stagnant, dili na nagapondo, kanunay na siya nag-evolve, nag-change. Because our law or the law is dynamic, there would be newer methods of violating laws. And also, hindi pwede na hanggang dyan na lang tayo sa easy bumabase sa mga violation of laws. That's why meron mga offenses or offense. Difference with this offense or yung offense from a felony is that it is an act or omission which is punishable by a special penal law. Okay? Another difference is that, for example, dito sa felony, sagaran na ani nagsugod sa kang article or yung yan, article. Yan. Article, yung nasa loob ng revised penal code. While an offense is a violation of a special penal law. It is generally termed as special law. Pero dahil may pataw na parusa, pinapataw na pagkakakulong o bayad, damages, then it becomes a penal law, special penal law. So, what are those crimes that are part of the special penal law, which kung violate is an offense? So, for example, yung mga batas na nagsisimula sa yung RA, yan, mga RAs or acts, yan, mga Republic Acts. Those are examples of offenses. Pati na rin yung sa panahon ni Presidente Ferdinand Boss, mga presidential decrees, mga PDs. Also included sa offense are those mga city ordinances na merong penal provisions or yung may patol na parusa. And in support of RA's PD and yung EO or yung executive orders or executive order. Okay? So, that's executive. Nagkulang na og si. Yan. Executive order. So, the difference with this is that first, let's start with RAs. Mga RAs or Republic Acts are laws na pwede may penal provision or wala na ginawa after na-release una yung nung 1932 yung penal code. Okay? When we say PDs, these were all laws that were created from 1972 up until 1986 during the second term ni Presidente Ferdinand Marcos, yung panahon ng martial law. So lahat ng mga batas na ginawa doon or during that time were PDs, presidential decrees. When we say executive orders, these are actually they are memorandums yan, na some of them have penal provisions that were made by the president directed to the executive branch of the government and to the people as well. So yan. For example, sa executive orders na may penal provisions or yung may napato na fine at prosa, yung dito sa local, for example, yung EO 39 or yung speed limit. Yan. So, that is an example of an executive order. But itong executive order number 39 is made by a local chief executive, which is yung mayor. Pero yung pang national, yan yung ginagawa ng presidente, which everyone must follow. Next is yung misdemeanors, infraction, or delinquency. Actually, they're just under one group. These are basic acts or omissions in violation of simple rules and regulations. For example, sa mga bata, it's generally termed delinquency. Pag minor ka, and you are doing something which against the norms or yung normal sa society, for example, curfew, for example, yung mga gang wars, yan, gubot, mag-riot, na they're basically lesser crimes. They're deemed misdemeanors kasi merong or majority ng mga local government units may pinataw na curfew. Yan. Especially ngayong panahon. So, a violation of those, especially ng mga juveniles or mga minors, considered misdemeanors. Yung ginawa, for example, ng yung mga city ordinances, yan, jaywalking, violation of curfew, and others, they are generally termed misdemeanors. Simple rules and regulations lang. Okay, let's proceed next to the development ng criminology. So, criminology has evolved in three phases during the course of the past 1,000 years. So, yung mga panahon before 18th century yan, 18th century is around the 1700s yan. So, before that, yung mga teritoryo, mga kaharian, their method of viewing crime is basically violation lang ng utos ng hari or ng leader. Wala pang mga levels, wala pang classifications. So basically, halos pareho lang yung nagiging parusa for different methods of violating a law or an order. Yan. So, of course, ever since kinain nung nila Adam and Eve, kinain ni Adam yung mansanas, that's basically the start of the occurrence of behavior which are somewhat criminal in nature. Yan. So up until lumago ng mga societies, dumami ng tao sa mundo, mas dumarami rin yung nangyayaring krimen. But the systematic studying of crime did not really fulfill or did not really become successful before 1700s or before late 1700s. And by the time nung late 1700s, and medyo nagkaroon na ng idea, ano ba talaga ang krimen? Ayan. So, prior to the late 1700s, yung pananaw ng mga tao when a person or kung sila ay nagkaroon ng sala against the kingdom or sa kaharian is basically understandable during their time na kung may violation ka or mayroon kang ginawang krimen, para na rin nagkasala ka sa Panginoon. So, it was equated with sin. Parang ganun yan. Yan. Again, crime is different from sin. In-explain na yan ng 1800s. Di ba? When we say crime, it's a violation of man's laws in general. Yan yung general notion eh. Crime is a violation of man's laws. Yung batas na gawa ng tao. While sin is generally termed as a violation of sacred obligations. Marami yan eh. May S. Sacred obligations. But the thing with crime is that kung meron silang really adapt na merong mga kasalanan na nagiging krimen. Meron din ibang mga kasalanan na hindi na consider krimen sa buong mundo. Okay? So, let me get this straight. Crime is a violation of man's laws, but man's laws are derived from those sins. Most sins, actually. Yan yung violation ng laws of God. But not every sin becomes a crime. Hindi lahat ng kasalanan nagiging krimen. But actually, it is worth being a crime. It's worthy of being a crime, pero hindi nga lahat. Okay? Let's proceed next. So, let's go to the first phase, yung development ng criminology. So, it involved during the time when scholars first distinguished crime and sin, kung saan criminal behavior were not really based on theology or yung religious sacraments, yung religious obligations. That is the first phase of development ng criminology na kung saan crime and sin were differentiated, pinagkaiba, sineparate sila. Okay? Also, during the first phase, the scientific method of understanding why crime occurs, nagsimula na. Karoon na ng proseso eh. When it is a scientific study, follows a certain established process. And so the first phase ng development ng criminology is called the era of classical criminology. Napakaraming personalities niyan. Okay, next. The second phase of criminology is generally called the modern criminology period. That was during the 19th century. Yung first phase was during 18th century. That's 1 century, 100 years. So the next 100 was modern criminology. Kung saan yung scientific processes improved, the understanding ng mga tao towards crime greatly improved, and that yung study of crime or yung criminology was already distinguished as a subspecialty or isa sa mga disciplines ng psychology, sociology, and economics. Diba? Merong mga taong gumagawa ng krimen kasi gusto niya makuha yung bagay na kinuha nila. Stealing or theft. Basically, related to economics. Yan, economics. So, baka nanakaw siya kasi wala siyang pambili. Yan. Pero bakit siya nagnakaw? Ano nasa isip niya before and during niya ginawa yung pagnanakaw? So, yan. Practical psychology or yung study of behavior, the human behavior, yung actions niya. Yan. And of course, sagutan natin bakit niya ginawa yon, anong nasa isip niya yung ginawa niya yon. It also studies or is a part ng sociology discipline because ang magiging epekto ng ginawa niyang krimen sa pangkalahatan. Kung sa may epekto pa to sa iyahang environment. Kasi epekto ana sa publiko. Kung sa may mahimong reaction sa authorities or mahimong reaction sa society, sa publiko. Again, it affects those, which makes it a subspecialty in criminology with these key disciplines. So that was during the modern period. Also, during that period, nagkaroon na ng formation ng schools of thought o yung somewhat criminological societies kung saan meron silang na-publish na libro called a Criminology Journal na kung saan napakita nila at ine-explain nila kung bakit may mga taong gumagawa ng certain kind of crime. Yan. Also, during the second phase or nung modern period, yung mga known criminologists of the past were conducting tests, specifically empirical tests. Ano ba yung empirical tests? These are tests which are derived from observations or experiments, whether yung hindi yung experiment na chemical, but yung social experiment. Anong magiging reaction ng tao pag may ganitong factor? Yan, for example. Also, more theories of crime were formulated and that these theories were much being used and being relied on, which also nawala na yung tinatawag na speculation ng tao. Maghaka-haka lang. Because theories are much better than speculations. At least ang theories may proseso, may explanation na credible. And theories, once it is constantly proven, it becomes a law. It becomes a universally accepted reason. Yan. So, nawala na tong mga speculations, which then became theories. And which, and once theories are then proven even further, it becomes laws. Okay? So let's proceed next. The third phase is yung beginning ng second half ng 20th century. That was around 50s and 60s. Yan. It was termed yung independent criminology or yung tinatawag nilang postmodern criminology. Which during that period, criminology began to assert its independence from traditional disciplines. So, di ba, from earlier phases, yan, yung second phase, di ba? Parang sub-discipline, subspecialty daw ang criminology ng psychology, sociology, at economics. By the postmodern period, or yung third phase, naging independent na field of science is criminology. Okay? So, it began to assert its independence. And it basically started yan, sa Western Europe, sa United States, and even yan, sa Canada. Expanded their reasoning, expanded their professional associations, and increased criminology journals being published. Okay? So, the thing with criminology kasi, it's not just about crime, it's not just about victims and yung suspect or yung offender. It basically affects everyone in the society, di ba? Pag may nangyaring krimen, hindi lang yung biktima ang naapekto, pati na rin pamilya niya, pati na rin yung paligiran niya, at of course, yung gobyerno o yung authority na naapektuhan. So, it somewhat becomes a much broader, not really much broader, becomes a more wide approach ang kinakailangan in order to successfully solve crimes and to successfully maintain peace and order. And that's one reason dahil sa lawak na ng criminology at ng epekto nito, it becomes multidisciplinary. Diba? Yung mga theory sa criminology kung saan meron ng extended fields of study na gamit. Not just from sociology, not just from psychology, meron na rin yung chemistry, yan, mga substances, yan. It also involves yung medical profession. Okay? So, next, let's go to the goals of criminology. Yan. So, nung 18th century, yung first phase, they were primarily concerned with the ending ng brutality upon those who are being punished because of crime. Kasi 'di ba, nung first phase, even before the 18th century, tinatrato ng publiko na ang paggawa ng krimen pareho sa ah, labag ng isang yung kasalanan, pagkakaroon ng kasalanan sa Panginoon. So of course, the authorities in the past considered it as a sin, and that brutality in implementing it is somewhat a justification. Okay? Also, they believed that criminal behavior was the product of the offender's rational choice. Yung sarili niyang ginusto. That crime could be prevented through the speedy and certain application of penalties that attach painful and unattractive consequences sa isang behavior. Diba? Kung gumawa ka ng krimen, before mo gagawin yan, mag-iisip ka kung anong mangyayari sa susunod. Ano pag nahuli ka? Anong magiging penalty o anong magiging parusa na ipataw? Okay? So, I'll proceed next to a different um, presentation. Let's go to the same, yung module na binigay ko sa inyo. Okay, so, yan. As defined by Mr. Edwin Sutherland noong 1934, he's an American criminologist, American sociologist din. He said that criminology is the entire body of knowledge regarding crimes and criminals. Also, yung efforts ng authority, yung efforts ng society para ma-prevent at mababanan yung krimen and also those criminals is also part of the study of criminology. Kasi kinakailangan rin malaman anong response ng society at ng authority. That's why it is a social phenomenon. Kasi lahat apektado. Okay, also, as you can see below, there are different terms. Yung kanina, yung mga fields of sciences or fields of study kung saan originally na-derive yung criminology or nako-connect. So, first, as you can see, sociology. So, meron tayong subfield niyan sa criminology, yung sociological criminology. It is the study of crime focused on the group of people and society. Yan. So, focuses on the public. Okay? When we say psychology or psychological criminology sa atin, it's the science of behavior and mental processes ng criminal. take note, mental processes ng isang individual or yung criminal. So, basically, kung psychology, it is within the mind. Yung anong mga nangyayari sa kanyang pag-iisip. Ano bang iniisip niya before, during, and after the commission of a crime. Focuses on the individual's behavior, the criminal's behavior. Pero ngayon, through victimology, it also looks upon the behavior ng victim before, during, and after the commission of a crime. Also, we have psychiatry. Yan, psychiatry or kung sa criminology na subfield, psychiatric criminology. It is the science that deals with the study of crime through forensic psychiatry or the study of criminal behavior in terms of motives and drives that strongly relies on the individual. So, say difference sa psychology o psychiatry? I'll explain that. Okay, so when we say psychology, itong psychology muna ang i-highlight natin. And when we say psychology, diba? Yung nakalagay dyan, the science of behavior and yung mental processes ng isang individual. So, we would highlight behavior ng isang tao in relation to his mind. Yung mindset. Yan. When we say psychiatry, pertains to whether the mind has yung medical sickness. Yan. Or yung condition within the mind. May sakit ba siya sa pag-iisip? Ano nasabing may sakit siya sa pag-iisip? O meron bang defect sa kanyang utak? Medically speaking, yan yung psychiatry. Psychology, it is behavior in relation to the mental or yung thought process. Paano siya nag-iisip? When we say psychiatry, yung sakit sa mismong yung pag-iisip, yung brain niya mismo. Yan, the brain itself. Yan yung sa psychiatry. Psychology is basically his behavior. Okay? So, yun yung differences ng psychology at psychiatry. Let's proceed next. Yan, scope and division of the study of criminology. So, it's very broad. Also, criminology relies also on other fields of science. Kasi in criminology, for example, may nangyaring krimen. Iba may mga examinations na ginagawa. And those examinations are different fields of sciences. Diba may chemistry, diba? Meron pa tayong ibang fields of science na ginagamit. As criminology tries to study the occurrence of crime, it also uses other applied sciences in order to successfully solve and understand the occurrence of crime. Yan. So these are the scopes and divisions ng study ng criminology. Okay? First, the making of laws. Dapat din pinag-aaralan yung paggawa ng batas. It pertains to the examination of the nature and structure of laws within a society, and it is being analyzed and it is being systematically reviewed para yung mga batas na magagawa would be fit not only for the society, yung lugar, but also yung magiging parusa or the punishment would fit the crime being considered violation of law. Next, breaking of laws. Of course, ito yung medyo naha-highlight kasi medyo so dito mas na-highlight ito ng publiko kasi medyo interesting talaga. Not just the victim but of course yung offender. So it pertains to the examination of the reasons of crime causation. Also, primarily deals to answer issues why meron pa ring mga taong gumagawa ng krimen. Diba? Nagtatanong din kayo, meron pa ring gumagawa ng krimen kahit na maraming tao. Kahit na police, diba? Or may law enforcer. Nga nung ang mga tao mag-jaywalk yapon bisan na anay manakopay. Yan. Try to understand it. That's part of understanding why people break laws. It's also the area where mostly yung public naiisip nila yung field ng criminology. Diba? Kung police, na ilang criminology. Diba? Study of the causes of crime. Or criminogenesis, much easier explained as criminal biology. Study of the causes of crime or crime causation. Yan yun. Okay? So also, part of the scope is itong reaction towards the breaking of laws. Ano bang reaction ng publiko pag merong krimen na nangyari? Yan. And also, it's not just the public, but also the government and its agencies. For example, terrorist attack na nangyari. That's a crime. Pero anong magiging reaction ng gobyerno? Anong magiging reaction ng publiko? Diba? Kung may nangyaring pambobomba, the immediate reaction of the government is to fight or to make it stricter yung pag-enforce sa batas. While the public, after the commission of a big offense, for example, yung terrorism, they would minimize their exposure outside. Hindi na sila halos lalabas ng kanilang mga bahay. Yan, mga reactions toward the breaking of laws. Hindi lang sa terrorism. For example, ngawat. Diba? Nai-report na nangawat sulod sa isang area. Of course, yung taong nagtatrabaho doon or dumadaan doon, once marinig nila yung balita, then their reaction is to watch their guard. Mas magiging sensitive sila sa mga nangyayari at kanilang paligiran. Okay? So, yung reaction can be a contributing factor into controlling or suppressing crime, but also some reactions can exaggerate or add up to the occurrence of crime. So, pwede makadagdag, pwede rin makabawas. Okay, next. Also, the importance of studying criminology is very important, especially sa mga students na tulad nyo. Because today, in the current or yung modern period, actually it's the postmodern period, yung awareness ng publiko at the time na merong mangyayaring krimen or something untoward might happen, yung attention ng tao ay nadadirect hindi lang sa biktima, pati na rin sa otoridad. And also, maraming mga tao magtatanong bakit nangyari at ano nangyari. Kumbaga mas naintriga ang mga tao once a crime or a certain phenomenon, yan. For example, terrorism, bakit yun nangyari? Sino bang mga involved? Yan. Ano bang magiging reaction ng otoridad? Because people nowadays are more interested with what is happening to society. And because crime is a problem na nasa lahat ng mga gobyerno, and also people would like to know how would the government fight criminality. Okay? Because people also want to understand why crime occurs and what to do about it. Ano ding magagawa ng publiko para sa kani-kanilang mga pamilya in terms of avoiding or fighting crime. So, there are four factors which make it important or makes it important in studying criminology. First, criminology is also important because it is a source of philosophy in life. Yan, merong mga tao influenced by their experiences na yung isang krimen or kung may krimen na mangyayari, it could affect philosophy in life, di ba? May mga tao na imbis na magiging mas vocal dahil merong nangyari sa kanila noon, eh, hindi sila mas magiging vocal or hindi sila mas magiging social towards other people kasi iniiwasan nila maging biktima ulit ng krimen, di ba? It could affect one's philosophy or yung ang pagtanaw niya sa kinabuhi. Also, the importance of studying criminology will be a background in order for that certain person to have a profession. Or a background for a profession related to social services or specifically law enforcement. Diba? Tanan mo ni sulod sa criminology because you want to fight crime. Most of you would want to join the police force or would join any other law enforcement agency. Dahil gusto niyong pumasok sa public service, you use this as a background to understand more on the things that would be happening, which is the ating field crime. It serves as a background. Also, criminal are legitimate objects of interest, di ba? Kita natin sa news, mas mahaba yung time sa pag-interview kay criminal compared sa victim or even sa law enforcer. Yan, because the public in general would want to understand bakit ginawa ng kriminal yung isang krimen. It should be understood also in order to know how to control the occurrence of crime and to control criminals. Diba? May ubang mga criminals na dakpa na musukol pa. So how to control them properly? Yan, that's one of those questions. Also nakalagay din dyan, the importance of studying criminology for the occurrence of crimes is because meron talagang portion sa gawa ng krimen na medyo costly. Yan. As, as what you can see, crime is a costly problem. Di lang yan siya maggastos sa biktima in terms of filing a case in court, magbayad ka pa sa abogado, masahe mo pa. It's not just costly for the victims. It is also costly for the government. Imbis na makatayo tayo ng maraming hospital, ng mga eskwelahan, ng mga ah, social services facilities, imbis na mapondohan yung infrastructure natin, nagsispend ng malaki ang gobyerno dahil kailangan pa rin labanan ang krimen. The principle of every government is that fighting crime and controlling the peace and order in their country is the primary consideration before all other factors of society comes in. Diba? Example, dito sa Mindanao, noon, maraming mga investors, whether local or international, hindi masyadong nag-invest dito sa Mindanao. Kasi alam nila, magulo dito noon. Sobrang gulo dito. So, as time passes by, yung efforts ng gobyerno at ng mga tao, nagkakaroon na rin ng bunga. And through the past decades na mas lumalaki yung pondo ng gobyerno sa paglaban sa krimen, it becomes very costly. But ngayong panahon, medyo nababawasan yung cost, yung gasto sa pag-arm sa mga pulis, pagbibigay ng weapon sa kanila, because the situation dito sa Mindanao medyo mababa na talaga. Yan. Diba? Kung magkakaroon ng giyera or magkakaroon ng krimen, there will be property lost or destroyed. Kung may casualties, medical expenses, di lang sa biktima, pati na rin sa law enforcers. Yan, insurance. And of course, mayroon din mga tao na kung nakatira sila sa isang lugar na constantly may krimen, mas gusto na lang nilang lumipat. So, moving cost for them. And other costs na hindi mababayaran ng pera. Like for example, yung trauma, that's what we say, yung trauma, it's part of it. Yung mga sakit na na-inflict sa kanila, siguro namatayan sila ng kapamilya, suffering, emotional suffering, will become too high for them to handle. Because it is a result of victimization towards them. Okay? So next, let's discuss the nature of criminology. Okay? In understanding crimes, it needs a wider understanding, of course. Because yung ibang mga fields of interest medyo mababang tingin sa criminology, but actually mas complex compared sa medical profession. Not naman na tinitingnan din natin sila na mababa, pero they have their own challenges. The thing with criminology, yung buong society, problema natin. Diba? Ano pag wala ng mga doktor? Diba? That's a big problem. Ano pag wala ng mga nagbebenta? Paano pag mahina ang economy? Diba mas marami ang nagnanakaw? So it becomes a problem of criminology. Maraming taong walang trabaho. Another problem of criminology. So, mas malawak ang ating sakop compared sa other fields of interest. hindi gano'n kalaki ang sweldo, but the fulfillment, satisfaction, nasa ating field. Okay? So, in the nature of criminology, it requires a systematic and balanced knowledge. In order to understand why does crime exist, bakit hindi talaga sa 100% ang krimen? Okay? So, let's go to the nature of criminology. Please take note. First, criminology is applied science. Criminology is an applied science. Yan. So, basically, it is part of those fields of interest, fields of sciences, na may pinag-aaralan, and the reason or part o ng kanilang pinag-aaralan, for example, study of crime, is because meron tayong mga prosesong sinusunod in studying crime. Diba? May mga proseso din tayong nakukuha from other fields of sciences in which it becomes considered as an applied science kasi ina-apply talaga natin in reality. Diba? For example, mag-imbestiga ng aksidente. Diba? Merong mathematics. There's mathematics involved in investigating traffic incidents. Yan. Medicine or chemistry. Diba? May taong namatay. Yan. May patay na katawan. Ang nagsa-study niyan, di ba? Yung tinitingnan niyo, SOCO. Basically, they're doctors. They study the effects to the body upon the commission of a crime. For example, may object na tumama sa katawan. Anong magiging reaction ng katawan? Yan. It's part of medicine. Still part of forensics. Part of criminology. Also physics. Yan, physics. Part of physics or one branch of physics is ballistics, di ba? Study of projectiles, yung study of bullets. So, yung movement ng bullets toward a person or yung target. Anong characteristics ng bullet before, during, and after its flight? Anong epekto din niya sa target? Yan. Kung tama ba ang aim ng shooter? Ano bang magiging epekto niyan kung tama yung bullet sa skull? Yan. Start of having derived other sciences towards criminology. Kumbaga, nag-i-exist ang criminology kasi meron tayong tulong from other applied sciences to successfully solve and understand crimes. Okay? Hindi lang psychology, hindi lang sociology. Pati na rin yung ibang natural science, ibang applied science, ginagamit. And they are utilized in crime detection and investigation. Of course, solving them. Next, criminology is a social science because crime does not only affect the victim and the perpetrator. Criminology is a social science kasi nagkakaroon ng reaction yung publiko. And the basic fact na ang krimen exists in a society. And the study of criminology is important because as a part of social science, ang criminology, ang kanyang trabaho is to maintain peace and order. Para yung mga tao hindi na magkakaroon ng additional na problema, hindi magpanik, hindi magkakaroon ng collective reaction na sama parang nagpanic sila when a crime occurs. Diba? For example, binomba yung Rojas Night Market. Anong naging reaction ng mga tao one day after the blast? Parang wala nang gustong lumabas. Eh, hindi naman holiday. Natatakot ng tao. And in criminology, we study that. Bakit ganyan yung reaction ng publiko? Anong magiging reaction ng pulisan or ng kasundaluhan. Ano ang pinag-iisip ng mga gumawa niyon during the commission of a crime? That's the reason why criminology is a social science. Next, criminology is dynamic. Sa botana, ang pagbuhat og krimen dili lang siya kutob sa mga styles or mga techniques na gigamit sa una. Crime is dynamic. Criminology must also be dynamic. Diba nagbabago ng techniques, nagbabago ng mga modus yung mga kriminal? How would you fight crime kung hindi mo alam yung pagbago ng mga modus ng mga kriminal? So, kailangan yung mga law enforcers, kinakailangan din ng authority na magbago rin to adapt, to be dynamic. Hindi yung iisa lang na krimen ang kayang ma-resolve. Dapat yung ibang forms ng crime. Criminology is dynamic. Hindi siya dapat napapag-iwanan ng panahon. Diba? For example, 1960s, walang cybercrime noon. Diba? Ngayon, halos yun na talaga ang main na krimen na nangyayari sa public. Kasi maraming tao ang nasa social media or naggumagamit ng internet. So, kung ipaiiral natin yung 1960s na style ng pagpuksaan ng krimen, paano na lang yung cybercrime? Hindi na yun mareresolba. Kung 1960s pa rin, yung form of suppressing crime. Okay, next. Criminology is nationalistic. So, criminology is nationalistic. Study of crime must always be in relation to the existing criminal law within the territory. Diba? Tayo na sa Pilipinas. Diba? Ang isang bansa may territory. So, kung may territory ka, may limit din yung territory mo. Kumbaga, sa Bisaya, na ay hangganan. Kung asa na kutob, dira ra jud ka kutob. Same goes with the territory of the Philippines. And Philippine laws are limited. Most of the Philippine laws are limited within our territories. Di ba? So, for example, meron tayong revised penal code. Di ba? Meron din tayo siya laws. Meron din tayong mga other local ordinances. All of those are in relation to the existing laws na meron sa atin. Kung walang batas na gumagawa na krimen yan, kung walang batas naman na ginagawa yung krimen, hindi naman yan violation of a crime. Criminology is nationally only controls or suppresses crime which are considered a violation under the current list of laws sa isang bansa. It's simply, kung hindi pa yan krimen, or hindi pa yan ginagawang batas, hindi yan krimen. Ulitin ko, kung hindi pa yan ginagawang batas, then it's not crime. You cannot arrest someone for violating a crime which has not yet been into law. And dapat yung krimen na tinatry natin ma-resolve, tinatry natin ma-understand, are those crimes which are existing within country. Yan. For example, kaya ba natin maintindihan o yung kaya ba natin mapuksa yung racism Yes, there's racism in the Philippines, pero hindi yung black at white. Kasi wala namang black and white na mga race dito sa atin. Basically, sa US. Maraming krimen ang nagsisimula sa rason na itim yung isa or puti yung isa. So in the Philippines, we don't have that kind of culture. We don't have that kind of problem. Kasi iba yung problema sa Pilipinas. Iba din yung problema ng krimen sa Japan, sa Korea, sa Thailand, sa Dubai, diba? Or sa Saudi. Kada bansa, may iba't ibang klase ng krimen na nag-i-exist sa kanilang territory. And it is also one reason why criminology, the study of criminology, is nationalist. Okay? Okay, next. So, nandiyan na yung definition ng crime and legal definitions. It always includes the action and commission and omission. Okay? Sinabi ko na to kanina, commission and omission. When we say commission, yung physical na paggawa ng isang krimen. When we say omission, yung mga ginagawang krimen dahil walang ginawa yung tao or the non-commission of an act which should be done. Hindi ka gumawa ng bagay na dapat mong gawin. That is omission. Okay? So, here are the definitions ng crime. If a crime is punished under the revised penal code, yun, felony. Act or omission yan. Punishable by the revised penal code only. If is an act, commission or omission punishable under special penal laws, call it offense. If the crime is punished by a city ordinance, yung local ordinance, yung considered na misdemeanors or yung delinquency, especially ng minors, you call them yan, misdemeanors lang and or infraction. Yan na yan. So those are the three general violations ng crime. Three crimes in general. So next, we will be discussing about the principal divisions in criminology. Okay? So as you can see below, meron tayo dyan. First, sociology of law. Studying crime, you need to know the laws which are existing in one country. It attempts to offer scientific analysis of the conditions under which yung penal or criminal laws are being developed, paano ginagawa yung batas, paano isinasabatas yung batas, at paano ini-implement yung batas. It's part of sociology of law. Diba? Kung law enforcer, it is really needed for you to know about the law. Next, criminal etiology. It attempts to provide a scientific analysis of the causes of crimes. Yan yung sinabi ko kanina. Criminal etiology. Bakit nangyayari ang isang krimen? That's one question that needs to be answered. Next, penology. Dito tayo sa baba. 6.3, penology. Okay? So, penology is a division of criminology concerned with the control and prevention of crimes and the treatment of youthful offenders. Kasi meron tayong tinatawag na criminal justice system or yung CJS. Yan. Let me just write it here. Meron tayong criminal justice system sa Pilipinas. Of course, in every other country, may iba't ibang pillars ng criminal justice system. Sa atin, 5 ang pillars. Unang-una, first, law enforcement. Ibang law enforcement ang unang contact ng mga kriminal, yun ang unang naghahanap sa kriminal or sa mga offenders. Sabihin natin nahuli sila. Okay, nagawa na ng trabaho ng law enforcement or nagawa na ng law enforcement yung kanyang trabaho. Asa nila isusunod yan? They'll proceed to the next, which is prosecution. Piskal. Ang trabaho ni piskal, titingnan niya yung kasong pinarge ni law enforcer against an offender. Titingnan ni piskal kung yung ginawang krimen, aresto sa offender is legal. Credible siya na pwede siya ipasa or kung sa Bisaya, may probable cause na isaka tulong kay judge sa court. So, court is your third pillar. Kung saan dyan na-try, yung trial nangyayari, at dyan na dinidetermine if yung offender or yung offenders is guilty or not. Then, after court, of course, magkakaroon yan ng judgment. Pahatulan yan kung guilty or not guilty. Sabi natin guilty. So, saan siya papunta? So, correction. It's part of penology. By the time na ko-commit or ilalagay na siya sa mga prisons, yan, it is a form of control against other people who would like to kill the offender and against the public. Baka yung offender gagawa ulit ng krimen in order for them to prevent committing crimes towards others. And also, one big part of penology is treatment of those offenders, especially yung mga youthful ones, yung mga juvenile offenders. Kasi baka gumawa sila ng krimen sa mga bagay na hindi nila naintindihan fully. Okay? So, next. Yan. Let's proceed to criminal justice or yung mismong criminal justice system. Sa Philippines, may tayong 5 pillars. That is part of the Philippine criminal justice system. Yan yung PCJS or yung Philippine Criminal Justice System natin. Comprised of 5 pillars. Of course, yung ikalima, after correction, yan na yung community. Unang-una is law enforcement. First contact ng authorities towards an offender. Then, mag-file siya ng charges sa prosecution. Titingnan ni prosecution kung yung taong nag-arrest, pati yung violator, may nilabag na batas. It will be charged with indictment. Titingnan ni prosecutor, fiscal, kung may probable cause. Of course, sa court pillar, ng korte, official public forum, which is free to watch, libre yan manood dyan, walang entrance fee. In order for the public to know na merong nagkasala sa krimen at hinahatulan siya or tinatry siya whether he's guilty or not. And of course, to properly administer justice based on existing laws. Okay, after the court, sabihin natin, he was judged guilty. Naging guilty si offender. So, sa correction pillar or sa rehabilitation. So, the basis of correction is to rehabilitate the behavior which originally is criminal in nature para mabago yung offender. It is not really based on punishing offenders but trying to fix their lives in order for them na ma-reintegrate or maibalik sa community. Kasi baka nagbago din sila. So, the community is the fifth pillar. Yan, kung saan binalik na yung offender after niya mag-serve ng kanyang sentence, and he is expected to change his mindset on life, and of course maging masunurin na sa authorities. Okay, so yan yung 5 pillars natin. The community has one of the biggest roles sa buong criminal justice system. Kasi what if bumalik si offender sa community after rehabilitation or corrections? Pareho pa rin yung environment na kakasalayan niya. Then he would be more susceptible again to commit another crime. So dapat mas may concern ng community, dapat maintindihan ng community na may possibility pa ang taong magbago, and that once ma-reintegrate na si offender balik sa community, it could change also for the better. Yan. So, also, meron din tayo sa criminology yung tinatawag na field. It is part of the field of criminalistics. Yan. So, when we say criminalistics, yan, yan ay yung scientific process involved in solving crimes. Yan. So, in criminalistics, ang pinaka-main na player dyan, aside from the individual, yan, is yung physical evidence. Excuse me, yung physical evidence. Yan. Kasi sa criminalistics, it's basically the applied sciences. Yan. So, when you are studying or examining a crime, there would always be what we call physical evidence. Yung evidence yung makikita mo, mahahawakan mo, maamoy mo, or yung mararamdaman mo. So, in order to know who did the crime, sino yung offender, you know, also to determine if what might be the effect of the crime or what might be the reasons of the crime, i-examine sa laboratory yung mga physical evidence na nakalap sa crime scene. We call the place of the occurrence of the crime yung crime scene. Kung saan nakita mo sa crime scene yung physical evidence. Yan. Blood, firearms, other weapons, fingerprints, footprints, pati na yung patay na katawan. So, the proof na merong nangyaring krimen is basically the body of the crime. Ang body of the crime is translated as the corpus delicti. And in Latin, body of the crime is yung corpus delicti. In order to establish that a crime has been committed, you must first locate the body of the crime, which is the corpus delicti. Okay? So, also, part din ng criminology is to understand sino ba yung criminologist at criminalist. Okay? So, when we say criminologist, he's a person who is a graduate ng baccalaureate degree na criminology or criminal justice. Yung graduate talaga siya ng 4 years ng criminology. And in the Philippines, meron pa yung additional qualification. You'll be called a criminologist if you have successfully passed the Board of Examiners for Criminology ng PRC. So yung Professional Regulation Commission. For short, dapat pasado ka sa board exams. Before you will become a criminologist, you are subjected to a board exam na register ng PRC. Yan. So, once you have graduated a 4-year degree and you have passed the board examinations for criminologists, then you would be a fully fledged criminologist. And of course, once you are a fully fledged criminologist, you're expected to engage in the practice of criminology. Yan. Kasi yung criminology, for the public yan. So, dapat you'll be considered a criminologist if you're a graduate of the degree, you have passed the board examinations, and you are practicing it. May mga criminologists, tapos sila sa 4-year degree, pasa sila sa board exams, pero naging real estate brokers. So, they are not really criminologists kasi hindi nila pinapractice yun sa field. Hindi yun ang naging trabaho nila. Okay? So, when we say criminalist, is a person trained in forensic sciences, the application of instruments and methods for the detection of a crime. Yan. So, yung criminalist, sila yung nasa laboratories. Yan. Meron na silang natapos na mga trainings, tapos na rin siya sa pag-aaral. They're practicing their field, yung specific field nila. Ang ginagawa lang kasi ng criminalist is that they are trained in forensic sciences and their job is to conduct examinations. Examinations na yun are application of instruments and methods in detecting or solving crimes. Kung saan yung main component na na-test or ine-examine ni criminalist is yung physical evidence. Okay? So, isipin natin, criminalist sila yung nasa crime laboratory. Sila yung mga naka-lab gown at nag-examine ng mga physical evidence na nasa from the crime scene. And they will try to detect changes or certain characteristics on those physical evidence in order to solve crimes. Sila ay criminalist. Okay? So, we have defined those two terms. Please do not be confused with those. So, next meeting, I will be discussing to you about division of criminalistics. Okay? So, we'll try to discuss that. There are 6 divisions of criminalistics, but scientific study, scientific process involving the solution of crimes. So, please watch out on the next meeting. We will be discussing starting here and the division of criminalistics. Okay? So, this is a recorded session. By the time you have seen this, I have posted this sa LMS, pati sa YouTube account ko. Okay, I have already I will posting this by the time you have seen this. So once again, thank you and have a good day to everyone.